We are on.
All right, well, thank you all very much for coming. I just tickled pink to have this many people show up. My name is Bill Stant, and I have been an Indiana Life and Health Insurance agent since 1996. I have various other licenses related to being a financial advisor, but they don't pertain directly to Medicare, so we'll just leave that aside for now. Let me start by asking, how many of you saw my ad in the paper?
Facebook.
Okay. And, oh, cool. How many of you understand the reference to Dr. Wu? Oh, well, in the late 60s and 70s, there was a rock band made up of Donald Fagen and Walter Becker and whomever they could round up for their latest studio session called Steely Dan. And they they had an album called Katy Lied. And Are You With Me, Dr. Wu is one of the lyrics from one of the songs on Katy Lied. I think the name of the song is Dr. Wu. Are you with me, Dr. Wu? Are you really just a shadow of the man that I once knew? Are you?
He promises not to sing anymore.
If you look at this is my partner Nancy.
Hello.
She's here to make sure I don't pull political science on you. I used to lecture to political science students in the Chicago area, and I would get this great idea, and I would go off on the stream of consciousness and go down this rabbit hole, and I'd get to the end, and I'd go, and so the point is, and so the students came up to me after class one day, and they said, Mr. Stant, would you just tell us what the point is first? So, Nancy's going to be monitoring my activities out there carefully, and if you see her going like this, you know, she's trying to tell me something. So, it's a joke, and I thought, well, I'm 66, and I was listening to Steely Dan in the 70s, and so that'll be a little hook and make me stand out and look different, and it'll remind people and get, evidently it just didn't work. Is Dr. Wu in your network? Well, only if you're a Steely Dan fan. All right. This is an educational session. The regulators at Medicare are very strict about what can happen at educational sessions as opposed to sales meetings or marketing events. So while I represent this year 4 different companies offering Medicare supplement, Medicare Advantage plans, I'm not going to speak of them unless I am required to in order to answer a question. Medicare isn't much different from your employer-based coverage, or if you had a private health insurance policy, or if you had signed up for a policy on the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare exchange. It's a shared expense program. Typically, you pay 20% of the expense allowable under Medicare, and Medicare will pay 80%. It's different if you go in the hospital. But anyway, it's a shared expense plan, and most all health insurance plans are shared expense. So, if you stick with traditional Medicare, good enough. There's reasons why people don't, and we'll go over a number of reasons why. They either stick with traditional Medicare and add a supplemental policy, or they elect to have their Medicare benefits delivered to them through a private plan, and there's a lot of them, and this is why our mail and our TV screenings are inundated this time of year with very attractive enticements to get all these great benefits, and that's called Medicare Advantage. And there's also Part D prescription drug plans. So I'm going to go over those: traditional Medicare, Medicare with a supplement, and Part C, which is Medicare Advantage plans, and Part D prescription drugs. And so there's a lot to cover. I've got the room till the library closes at 4. We got a late start because we were told that there's places going to be crawling with little kids running around pretending to be superheroes or princesses. And so we couldn't get in the room till 2. We got here and it was a ghost town, and there were no wonderful little kids running around. Anyway, Medicare is for 3 groups of people, age 65 and older, under 65 with certain disabilities, people of all ages with end-stage renal disease. Typically, I think of that as kidney failure. For today, we're going to assume, oh, and there's also Lou Gehrig's disease. I forget well, I used to know the medical term for it, but anyway, if you have end-stage renal failure or Lou Gehrig's disease, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can get on the Medicare. For now, we're going to assume that everyone here is in the group 65 or older. How do you enroll? Well, if you're coming up on your 65th birthday, you have an 8-month period. It starts at the beginning of 3 months in advance of the month of your birthday, through the month of your birthday, and then 3 months afterwards. That's the 8-month initial enrollment period. Somebody remind me to do this. I have a remote, but I've never been able to make it work. That's why. Wave at me if I need to hit the slide, okay?
You can follow along in also in your handout, there's the slides.
Yeah, there's all these slides, there's 3 to a page with some lines for notes on the right. So your initial enrollment period is that 8-month period surrounding your birthday. Sorry, that's 7 months, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're in 36 and 1 is 7. Sorry. I'm a financial advisor. I can't do grade school arithmetic. All right. If you miss that initial enrollment period, then every year between January 1st and March 31st, there is a general enrollment period. And then there's another number of circumstances called special enrollment periods. And typically this involves leaving your workplace health plan, and then you get to enroll. And if your workplace had 20 or more employees, then you can postpone enrolling in Part B. If there's 20 or fewer enrollees at your workplace where your health plan is, why then Medicare pays first, and Medicare doesn't want to pay first if you are not enrolled. So you're going to have to enroll in Part A and B, even if you decide to stay on your group health plan. You don't have to. Part B is optional, but there's penalties which over a period of 20, 30 years in retirement, they'll add up to a lot of money. And so you want to avoid them. If you choose to stay with your workplace health plan because you're still working, you know, it would be a good idea to compare those benefits with what's on offer at Medicare, and talk to your employer plans, your HR person, or call the insurance company that's carrying the plan at work and ask them, I'm trying to decide whether to stay on this plan or go on Medicare, and have them compare the benefits for you. Push the button. So, but anyway, there's a number of special enrollment periods. Also, people who had Medicaid but are being removed from it because of the special rules around the COVID pandemic, that would create a special enrollment period. So if you're collecting Social Security, your Medicare enrollment is going to be automatic, and you'll receive a card in the mail 3 or 4 months before your birthday. You can call Social Security if you have any questions about that. That number is 800-772-1213. No need to write it down because it's in the next slide. If you're not yet collecting Social Security, then you can call about 100 days before your birth month, or go online and enroll at Medicare.gov. I did it in 2021 when I turned 65, and it was pretty streamlined. It was pretty easy. But there's a lot of us don't do the internet, can't get online. Just if someone walks in the room with a computer, you run screaming out of the room. You can always call Medicare. You don't have to go online. Original Medicare. It was signed into law July 30th, 1965. The first 2 beneficiaries were ex-President Truman and his wife Bess. Today, over 56 million Americans have Medicare. That's most Americans age 65 and older, regardless of income or health status. You're going to hear a lot about Medicare supplement plans, and they are labeled A through N. It's important not to confuse that alphabetical label with the parts of Medicare. Part A, hospital care; Part B, outpatient care; Part C, the new, well, not so new anymore, private Medicare Advantage plans; and Part D, prescription drugs. Let's start with Part A. It's usually free to you, but you have to enroll. And once you've enrolled,
Slide.
thank you, slide. That wasn't Nancy's voice, was it? Was that Nancy? I didn't recognize that. Usually free, sometimes it's not. Okay. Part A is for hospital care. It covers things like your hospital room, your meals, general nursing and general hospital services and supplies. It does not cover private duty nursing. It does not cover comfort or convenience items, and there's still a hospital or two out there that isn't going to turn the TV on until you ask for it, and then they'll bill you for that too. Most times your TV or your telephone in your hospital room is part of the room charge, but you got to watch what you're being charged for. For your first 90 days in the hospital, 60 days are covered at 100% after your Part A deductible is met. The Part A deductible is $1,632. Usually when we hear about deductibles, we think about a calendar year. For Medicare Part A, the deductible is for a benefit period. And in a few minutes, I'm going to show how you could conceivably, not too far-fetched, rack up 4 benefit periods in a single year. And each one of those will come with a $1,632 deductible. So, for days 61 through 90, if you're still in the hospital, these days not real likely since the average stay in the hospital is 4.5 days. But if you get out to day 60 through 90, your copay is $400 a day. If you get past day 90, you have an $800 a day copay. That's what you pay, not what Medicare pays. And those come out of your 60 lifetime reserve days, and you only get that lifetime reserve of 60 days once. Once it's gone, which is not very frequent. You stop and think about it. They don't want you in the hospital for a long, long time. They want to move you on back home to home health care or to a skilled nursing facility for rehab or to a nursing home. But that's the benefit structure for Part A. It's important to note, anytime you start a new benefit period, you have a new $1,632 deductible. So if you go into the hospital for a couple days, you get discharged, and then you return a week later, you're still in that first benefit period. Why? Because you didn't go 60 consecutive days without going in the hospital. If you go in for 10 days, you come out and you get 10 days rehab, and then you go home. If you then go back within 60 days, you're in the same benefit period. But if you go home and you stay out of the hospital or the rehab for more than 60 days, and then you go back, that's a new benefit period, that's a new deductible. That's the first example of why people buy these Medicare supplement plans, because, you know, I mentioned 60 days, and then I mentioned before that 60-day clock starts ticking after you get out, there was 10 days in rehab and 10 days in the hospital. So that's 80 days. How many of those can you fit in a 365-day year? Conceivably 4 of them. In which case, you would have paid four times $1,632. I had the arithmetic on one of these pages. It's just not popping up right here.
65.
Something like that. Okay. When is Medicare Part A not free? It's probably free for everybody here if you forget the fact that you would pay in Medicare taxes all your working life. If you ever worked for somebody on a payroll and they deducted your taxes, you were paying into Medicare. So in a sense, you've already paid for it. And if you've done 40 calendar quarters and earned at least $1,730 per calendar quarter, that's it. When you get to 65 and you sign up for Part A, you don't pay any premium. But you know, sometimes people live overseas for a really long time, or someone who lives overseas gets married to someone who lives here, and I'm not sure exactly the details of that, if that instantly gets you credit after you've been married for a day or not. But there are some people who have to pay for Medicare, and the premium is going to range from $278 to $505. The fewer of the 40 worked quarters, defined by this $1,730 minimum that you've worked, the higher you are going to be on this range from $278 to $505 on what you pay for Medicare Part A. You also have to pay a Part B premium when you sign up for it. Next year it's going to be $174.40. There's a late penalty if you don't sign up for Part A when you were first eligible. If you enroll 2 years late, then you're going to pay 10% of what your premium is in addition to that premium, and you're going to pay that for twice as many years as you could have been enrolled. So if you wait 2 years, then for 4 years, you're going to pay your Part A premium plus a 10% penalty for 4 years. And the logic of that, however much it stinks, there is a certain logic from the point of view of actuaries and highly skilled mathematicians who calculate risk statistics on health and everything. The logic is you're trying to pool the risk. And so you can't not pay into the pool and then suddenly jump in when you're sick and you need to claim benefits. That's why they penalize you. Okay, do we have any questions on that so far? Yes?
So, I just signed up for VA insurance,
Uh-huh.
so, I mean, it's a lot more generous than,
Yeah.
are they gonna penalize me on my social security for not, or can I opt out of Part A? They already penalized me once for not, I didn't know you had to tell them you had insurance
Yeah.
on Part B.
Are you talking about TRICARE?
Well, I guess it is TRICARE, it's,
Yeah, if you've signed up for that, then you have probably been enrolled in Part A and Part B. And whether you'll have to pay the penalties or not depends upon your circumstances. But my understanding is you can't get TRICARE for active duties or retired military folks or veterans unless you enroll in Part A and Part B.
they didn't ask me, but maybe they just do it automatically.
They may-
And I'm not
yeah.
retired, I've just
Okay.
served 4 years.
Yeah, I served 3 years, and I've tried every once in a while to talk to the local VA guy, and something about when I served or something, I never seemed to get much. Well, to be fair, I did get the Vietnam era GI Bill. I never went anywhere near a war zone. Nobody ever fired a shot at me in anger, and I always feel a debt to the combat veterans of the Vietnam era. But I was enabled to become a professional student for many years. I mean, I collected a check as long as I stayed enrolled full-time, and when I got married, they gave me a raise. So I thought that was a pretty good deal, supplemented with student loans, which I am still paying, by the way. Enough about me. Yes, did you have another?
Well, no, I just been unclear about my situation, I guess.
Yeah, I think you need to call the number. Did you get one of these in the mail? If you didn't, you got the presentation, and on the back page there's a phone number for Medicare. And I think if you're still working, how old are you, if you don't mind my asking?
68.
Okay, and when did you sign up for Medicare, or did you at all?
Yeah, well, as soon as I turned 65, it kind of signed me up.
Did you start collecting Social Security?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well then, okay.
At 62, I started collecting my Social Security because I don't trust
That it's gonna be there at all down the road.
But,
You should already be signed up then.
and Leslie had insurance through her employer, and I was on that, so I didn't think that I needed Part B. And so then I just got to looking, like 3 years later, at my social security statement and they're penalizing me for not Part B, having Part B.
They're charging you a premium, is it like $164?
Well, until I called them and said, hey, I got insurance, and they said, okay, we won't charge you anymore, but we're not gonna give you anything back either, you know, for the government.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you are already enrolled, and you're probably paying, and you were probably paying more than what most people pay for Part B because of the penalty for not enrolling. when
Well, I
you
don't
were
need Part B though, will I? I mean,
It depends on the health plan.
the VA is covering hospital, they're covering $5 doctor visits, $5 prescriptions, $50 on getting rotator cuff surgery. That's what I'm saying, are they gonna still take Part B out of my Social Security, or will they count that like they did her health insurance as?
We can, let me just do this. Let's sit down and look. I know that there's a detailed section in here that I read through about veterans benefits and
Okay.
Medicare, and we'll probably find the answer in there.
I'm not
If
very
you hang
patient.
around.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Oh, no problem. Anything else on Part A before I move on? Or jot down your question, we can come back to it later. Part B, $174.40.
These things.
Out of your social security check if you're taking it. Or, you have to sign up and they'll send you a bill if you're not collecting social security yet. So it covers doctor visits, lab work, x-rays, outside of a hospital stay. But if a physician is coming and visiting you while you're in the hospital, that'll also be covered under Part B. It's an 80-20 plan. Medicare pays 80% of the approved expenses. You're responsible for the remaining 20%. There's also a $240 deductible, which by today's standards is a pretty low calendar year deductible. If you collect a social security check, that $174.40 is most likely being deducted from it. Now, not everybody pays $174.40. There's the MACRA, the monthly age-related adjustment. I think is what it's called. So if you're married, filing jointly, and your income is $206,000 a year or less, that's your adjusted gross income, and they look at it from 2 years ago, which seems to me problematic. Maybe they'd fix that. They look at what your income was 2 years ago, and if it was, for married folks, above $206,000, your premium goes up to $244. Above $258,000 to $322, it goes to $350. If you're married, filing jointly, making $750,000 a year or more, then each of you will pay $594 in premium for Part B. But most of us are going to be down in the lower levels of that arrangement. What you don't get with Parts A and B, and this is where the other plans, the supplement that you use with traditional Medicare, or the Advantage plan, which replaces traditional Medicare, this is where they come in, because you don't get a cap on your expenses from Medicare. You don't get dental benefits, you don't get vision benefits, you don't get prescription drug benefits, you don't get hearing benefits, and you don't get help with long-term care. And I want to be really strong about that. A lot of people think that Medicare will cover long-term care, and it's because they hear of somebody in a nursing home after they've been in the hospital. That's typically rehabilitative care. It's designed to make you better, help you recover from an illness or an injury. And those rehab facilities are typically inside or attached to an assisted living facility that also has nursing home care. And they'll all be in one complex, and so people get the idea that, oh, well, Medicare is paying for Aunt Jane because she's living over at the home down the street. No, Medicare is paying up to 100 days of her rehabilitative care. The residents in the nursing home there are on custodial care. It's care for something you're not expected to recover from. Typically, we associate this with frailty, but there's a lot of people living in nursing homes, you'd be surprised, well under age 65. But Medicare does not help you with long-term care. Just remember, long-term care is custodial, not rehabilitative. So, when you delay Part B, you can enroll in Part A. You pretty much already paid for it with your payroll taxes. If you're still working at your job, why, you're still making contributions to the Part A trust fund. But you can delay Part B under certain circumstances. As long as you're covered beyond age 65 by a group health insurance plan provided by an employer for whom either you or your spouse still actively works, and that employer has 20 or more employees. That's important to remember. If that's the case, you can delay your enrollment in Part B, and when you retire, you can then sign up for Part B. I mentioned that Part B is optional, but there's a late enrollment penalty. It's 10% for each 12-month period that you could have been enrolled, but didn't. So next year, the premium is, and I should have something to write on up here, $174.40 times 0.10, just move your decimal point, that's $17.40 in addition to your $174.40. Per year, that's an extra $208.80. Over 5 years, it would be $1,044. Anyway, those penalties can add up.
But you don't get penalized if you're employed up to the time.
That's correct, if you're employed. And when you do retire and sign up for Part B because you're not gonna stay on that workplace retirement plan anymore, then your initial enrollment period starts at that point.
So the only benefit from delaying Part B is that you just don't have to pay that premium a month, have it taken out of your Social Security.
That's right. Assuming you have coverage somewhere else, which is creditable. You know, it needs to be at least as good or better than Medicare. And it needs to be with an employer that has more than 20 employees. Because if it's fewer than 20 employees, then the rules are, okay, Medicare has to pay first. It's great to have coverage at Medicare and the employer group plan, but if Medicare has to pay first, they want you on the rolls for Part A and Part B. Okay, we're cramming through a lot of material here at rapid pace. Don't hesitate to stop me, slow me down. And if we end up getting too much into weeds, then I'll say, well, let's talk after the meeting. Okay, so where do you go? Do you enroll in Part A? Do you enroll in both Part A and B? Do you select a Medicare Advantage plan, which takes all of your entitlements to Medicare benefits and has them delivered to you through a private insurance company? Or do you supplement your traditional original Medicare with a supplemental plan, which protects you from that unlimited number of expenses from original Medicare? Another point about delaying Part B. If you work for an employer that offers a retiree health plan, that doesn't get around the Part B penalty. If you've been laid off, you're on COBRA for a while, you've heard of COBRA, the continuation of the workplace health benefit, that also does not get around the Part B penalty. All right. This next slide is essentially just saying, if you're on a union plan and you're retired, go and talk to the benefits administrator. Compare Medicare Advantage and original Medicare, or Medicare original plus a supplement, with what you're going to get on your retiree benefit or on your union plan when you're no longer working. So ask them, are there copays and deductibles? Does it include a drug plan? Really important. If I sign up for one of these Advantage plans and I don't like it, can I get back into my workplace plan? Quite often, most of the time, my understanding is you cannot. Once you leave, they won't let you come back in. What does it cost? Does it include dental and vision? These are all important questions to get answered. All right, I said don't confuse the alphabet soup on Medicare A, B, C, and D with Medicare supplements. Well, there's 10 of them, typically. They run A through D, and for clarity's sake, there is no Plan E. Then they run F and G, but for some reason, there's no H, I, and J. Then there's K, L, M, and N. All I know is that there's a lot of insurance companies offering Medicare supplement plans, and there's a lot of insurance companies and nonprofit organizations offering Medicare Advantage plans. There must be a lot of money there, and it's all got to be regulated. And so I think that complex of interests is why it's so damn complicated. But I told Nancy I would not get on my soapbox. It's a big soapbox. So there's a lot of plans, lots of options if you want to look at Medicare supplements, also known as Medigap. You've got to have traditional Part A and B. Then you purchase a supplement policy to cover certain costs that Medicare does not. There's 10 of these plans, and I believe in your folder there is a handout. In the left side behind the Medigap protections, it looks like this. Now, if you're ever at a PowerPoint presentation and someone puts something like that on the screen, just go ahead and get your pillow out and take a nap. This tells you what all the plans are. There's 10 of them. There's 2 of them that have a high deductible version. And generally speaking, when you supplement original Medicare with this Medigap approach, a lot of those expenses that you would get hit with, for which there is no cap for traditional Medicare, a lot of those will get a cap on them. There's also something that I don't have a slide up here for called Medicare Select. Oh, well, the point I wanted to make was that you can go to any doctor, use any hospital, clinic, lab, whatever, that accepts Medicare. So it is kind of managed care, but it's wide open, really. All you gotta do, most of them these days accept Medicare. There are Medicare Select plans, which are supplements that use a network. Watch out for those. They might charge you a little bit less, but that's only because they've come up with a list of hospitals and doctors like the Advantage plans use, and they want to restrict you to that in terms of where you get your care. So if you're on a Medicare Select plan, know that you can't just go to anyone else that takes Medicare. But if you're on a typical Medicare supplement, you can choose any of these plans, A through N. And there's a couple columns on that handout, columns K and L, which give you a lower cost version of Medicare supplements because you have this high out-of-pocket cost that you first have to meet. And so on my copy, I went on to Medicare.gov, which I urge all of you to do. And I put my name and, well, I was already on there anyway. And I just said, show me all the Medicare plans, Medicare supplement Part A's. There were 55 of them. They ranged in premium from $100 a month to $381 a month. There were 7 Part B's, Part B's, sorry. 7 Medicare Supplement B plans, 8 Medicare Supplement C plans, 12 Medicare Supplement D plans, and so on. And the costs typically are $100 a month and up, depending upon which insurance company you buy them from. Key thing to remember is that no matter how many different insurance companies are offering a plan A, they all have to deliver the same benefits for Medicare Supplement A's. They can only vary from one another on price. And companies I've seen in my 20-some years in this business, I've seen them just drop their premiums to rock bottom, and we call it buying a share of the market. So for the first year or two, the premiums are not keeping up with the claims, but they know that, as with all Medicare supplement plans, they're in these age brackets, and as you get older, the premium goes up. So maybe you started with the plan F and you were paying, $125, $150 a month, and well, now you're 75 and you're paying $350 a month. So, I have in my notes here, I want to come back to that nightmare scenario where you're battling cancer or you're trying to recover from a stroke or whatever it is, some dread experience, and you run through 4 of those Part A deductibles, $1,632. That's comes to $6,528. And our friend who was sitting there, he did that in his head. Come back. Okay, well, what else is going on in there? If you had a stroke, you're sure to be getting an MRI, probably more than one. You'll be getting other kinds of scans, CAT scans, blood tests, urine tests, who knows what all. Every time one of those events happens, there's a charge. A lot of them are going to be 80/20, but you'll easily, in addition to that $6,528, run up another $2,000 in expenses. So now you've got $8,528 in expenses within the course of a year. If you divide that by 12 months, that's $710 a month. Well, if you sign up for a Medicare supplement, Plan G or Plan F, and you look at this and see that all of those gaps in Medicare, Plans F and G, they pretty much cover most or all of them. And that would run you maybe $150 a month if you're in your 60s. So $150 a month is a lot better than $710 a month. If you take that in-hospital experience I described, $8,528, but you know, when you get out of the hospital, it doesn't mean you're not going to be incurring additional expenses because you're still dealing with the disease that you had to be in the hospital and then rehab for. So you're going to be running up your 20% of the costs under Part B when you're out of the hospital. So this is a really $8,500 a year, a conservative estimate. So that's why people buy Medicare supplements if they can afford them. Because, thank you, I had to flip the page anyway.
And side.
No problem. So, using original Medicare and one of these 10 options for a supplement makes sense if you would like to just say, okay, you know, I can afford $150 a month for me, and for my partner, that's $300 a month. How much of that is $3,600 a year? I can afford that, especially knowing that, you know, we're going to be needing more health care. We're already dealing with this or that problem. I can afford $300 a month, especially when my expenses, if I don't do anything to supplement my original Medicare, are going to be, could be, you know, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000. That's a lot more if you divide it into 12 months than just having all of that stuff taken care of with a Medicare supplement plan. If so, if you want to budget it, really what you're doing is you're budgeting. You're saying, okay, well, I'm going to pay $150 a month. I'm going to use any Medicare provider I want to, and they're going to cover, the supplement is going to cover pretty much anything that Medicare does not, within the limits of what is covered by Medicare. What's not covered by Medicare within those limits, so that's your share of paying the cost of those benefits. But as we saw a few slides back, there's a lot more to healthcare than just what Medicare covers in the hospital or outpatient. However, another thing that you really ought to do is supplement that $300 a month with a Part B prescription drug plan. You might not be taking many prescription drugs right now, but as your health develops down the road and new miracle drugs are coming on the market, you know, you're probably going to need to be in a prescription drug plan. That's the last part of my presentation, and I see I'm not making very good progress getting there. So I'm going to cover it if you have the patience to hang around that long. I'll try to speed things up, but I don't want to, you know, push through too much all at once. So you see why people would want to cover the deductibles, co-insurance, and co-payments that Medicare doesn't pay. It also has a feature called guaranteed renewable. And what that means is that as long as you pay your premium, depending on how sick you get or how many claims you pay, as long as you pay your premium, they have to renew your policy for you. And they can't start charging you more based on all those claims. You're in an age cohort for everybody in the state of Indiana of that age group. Here's what they charge for that. As long as you got in when you had guaranteed issue, they can't charge you more. So I say that because I want you to distinguish between guaranteed renewable. Once you've got a supplement plan, they can't kick you out as long as you pay the premiums, and they can't charge you more than they're charging everyone else. That's different from guaranteed issue. You could be running up hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical expenses, hit age 65, and you have a guaranteed issue right to enroll in any Medigap plan offered in the state of Indiana, regardless of your health history. Now, there's another handout in there from the Indiana State Health Insurance Assistance Plan, and it describes when, other than that initial enrollment period, your guaranteed issue rights might also apply. And it's a little complicated, but let's say you just turned 65 and you opted for Medicare Advantage because why, it's zero premium. I'm sure you've come across those zero premium plans they're promoting in the mail, and those can be an attractive option.
But that's not a supplement plan.
That is not a supplement plan. Where was I? When you reach age 65 and you enroll in Part A and Part B, or when you reach the end of your employment and you leave your employer group health plan and go on to Medicare, there's a 6-month initial enrollment period. And during that period, you can buy any Medicare supplement plan available in your state without having to go through underwriting. There's an exception to that rule. The devil's office in the details. If you arrive at age 65 and you've been sick and you haven't had any coverage from a group or individual or anything, why then the insurance company, they have to offer you a policy. They can't charge you more for it. They can't refuse to issue it, but they can impose a 6-month look back on your pre-existing condition. So that for the first 6 months you've got that policy, they're not going to cover those pre-existing conditions. That's if you arrive at your Medicare eligibility not having any insurance in force at that point at all, up to that time. Then they can make you wait 6 months before they help with that. But hopefully these days that's less and less. The various other times, there's one example I'd like to point out. Let's say you join a Medicare Advantage plan because, you know what, you just can't afford to go get a dental checkup except through the benefits they're offering on that Advantage plan. Or you just can't afford to go get your eyes checked once a year. You sign up for it when you're first eligible. You then have a trial right, 12 months. If within those 12 months you say, this Medicare Advantage thing stinks, I'm signing up, I'm going back to original Medicare and signing up for a supplement. Well, then you still have a guaranteed issue right. But don't let too much time go by. All the other exceptions detailed in that handout for Hoosiers have a 63-day period where, yeah, okay, under these circumstances, you can have guaranteed issue, but you have to claim it within 63 days. The complexity here is mind-numbing. It's just, anyway, just remember, if you didn't use your guaranteed issue right when you first signed up for Medicare Part B, look to get a supplement plan, and you're going to use one of these other exceptions to get a supplement plan without all the medical underwriting, you got to take that opportunity within 63 days of the date that the situation arises, and that's listed on the other side of that sheet. Okay, now to the controversial Medicare Advantage. There's a lot of bad press about Medicare Advantage. One bad thing about it is that the compensation for agents that sell the products are much more generous for Medicare Advantage than it is for Medicare Supplement. Shouldn't be that way. In my opinion, I'm stepping on my soapbox. In my opinion, traditional Medicare ought to be able to offer us everything that a Medicare Advantage plan offers. Full stop, period. The problem is that traditional Medicare is an established public institution. It does not make contributions to campaigns for the U.S. Congress. Follow the money. A lot of members of Congress are more than happy to let a Medicare Advantage plan offer you dental, vision, hearing. And if you're in a wheelchair, why, some of them will, Congress just authorized Medicare Advantage plans to come out and put a wheelchair ramp up to your front door. Or put grips in your shower. They're offering healthy food allowances at the grocery store. Non-prescription drug allowances at the drugstore. Transportation to and from your doctor's appointment. Dental, vision, hearing, oh, and all those Part A and Part B benefits that traditional Medicare offers. Zero premium. Makes it easy to sell. But I think we need to know, now that Medicare Advantage plans, let me back up a few words, more Medicare beneficiaries are enrolled in Advantage plans than have stayed in traditional Medicare. If you're a member of AARP, they send you a newsprint bulletin once a month. This month's, the October bulletin was the future of Medicare. And they're sounding the alarm. They're saying, you know, Congress won't let Medicare expand benefits. God forbid we all have to pay $1 or $2 more in taxes for it. Pardon me, I don't mean to offend anyone's religious sensibilities, that just slipped out. But it's controversial that Congress can't get anything done, and there is this famous notion that it gets beat into our heads that why private markets can do anything government can do, but much better. Let me just say, as an experienced agent, Nancy's hand is coming up to the here, she's getting ready to go like this. But in all my experience dealing with insurance companies, it's a clown car. Especially this time of year. Now, I haven't said that about any one of the companies I represent, so I'm still within the range of the limits of what I can say under my license. Working with private insurance companies makes the federal government look like the very model of efficiency. I've got that memorized because I say it over and over again. I might have to wait a while, but I can get through to someone to help me at the IRS if I'm persistent enough and it's early enough in the morning. I might have to wait a while and get through to someone at Social Security or the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. There's only one insurance arrangement where someone will pick up the phone 24/7, 365 days a year, and that's the Affordable Care Act. So, shut up, Bill. Back to what's in your clients, in your prospective clients, your visitors here, they want to know what's best for them, not what your opinion is. So I apologize. The big deal about Medicare Advantage is that they can package all these benefits and they can offer it to you for what they call zero premium. I think they should be required to say zero additional premium so that consumers will then say, oh, in addition to what? Well, these plans collect what are called capitation rates. Medicare is, if nothing else, it's floating on an ocean of data about health, the health history, how healthy the population is in a geographically defined area. So if you have a 47448 zip code, they know what it costs on average to deliver your Part B benefits and your Part A hospitalization benefits. They send that much to the insurance company as soon as you sign up for a Medicare Advantage plan. You may never file a claim that year, but that much money is going to the insurance company. And so that's why a lot of people who are boosters of public health plans are saying, if we keep going the way we're going, traditional Medicare is going to go away. And all it's going to be doing is regulating private Medicare Advantage plans. I don't know if that's true or not, and I see the other side of it when I'm out there in the marketplace because I serve people who can't afford to go to the dentist. And common sense, we all know, your dental health, your oral hygiene is a fundamental, central part of your overall health. You need to go to the dentist once a year. Your eyesight is fundamental, your ability to hear. If it weren't for these zero premiums plans, there's a lot of people out there that just wouldn't be going to get the audiology tests, their eye tests, their dental care. So it's really hard to argue with, especially when they say, well, by the way, we'll send someone out there and give you a ride to and from the doctor. Because there's a lot of people out there who don't go because they can't get there. And there's reasons for that too, but then we get into some really serious macroeconomic and philosophical debates, which I will resist. So,
On zero premiums, are the deductibles usually higher?
no, the deductible on all Medicare Advantage plans is for is quite often the plan will cover the Part B deductible for you. Quite often there'll be zero premium, zero deductible, zero copay, as long as you go to one of the doctors that's in our network. If you go to a specialist, okay, well, $35 for the office visit. How do they do that? It's because they're getting money from Medicare. And this time of year, everyone knows everyone's thinking about it, so the critics of Medicare Advantage have got a lot of bad press out there. I was trying to get to bed last night, and I came across an article from NBC News about rural hospitals out in rural parts of the country to the west of us who are just getting killed. You know, hospitals in the countryside are shutting down, and they're claiming one of the biggest reasons is that Medicare Advantage plans won't pay claims. Because, oh, well, they're not in the network. I have a lot of words underneath this slide up here that I was going to read to you, but I think the main point I want to get across is simply this. If you decide to go with that zero premium plan, great, just know what you're getting into. You have to manage the management of your health care. The plan is managing your health care, because if it's a health maintenance organization, there's a network of providers. You have to use in-network providers. Most of the time, if you want to go see a specialist, you got to ask your primary care physician, they want you to name one who's in-network when you sign up. Hopefully, the doctor you're already using is in the network. And that doctor then...
Will stay in the network.
And will stay in the network. Yeah, that's the next point I was going to tell you a story about. Well, you have to manage it, and you have to manage it regularly. You have to be vigilant and stay on top of it. That's kind of the trade-off for paying zero additional premium. But the answer to the question, in addition to what? It's in addition to, number one, the $174.40 you're paying every month, which is going to the insurance company that offers that plan, and a big slice of the Medicare Part A trust fund that we've all been paying into, many of us are still paying into now, that's supposed to cover hospitalization. That is what a capitation rate is. I didn't get around to it. I was going to call the 800 Medicare number and say, here's the Medicare Advantage plan my partner and I are on. Can you tell me what's the capitation rate? Because I went and looked through big documents with lots of scary statistical tables, and I never saw the code number for our plan and a dollar amount that they're sending to the insurance company. But it would be really nice to know that going in, because whose money is it sitting in that Part A trust fund? The critics talk about it like it's the government's money. Well, okay, if you like the ideal notion that who is the government, it's us, it's our money. And there's also criticism saying that we've done studies and traditional Medicare delivers these benefits more cheaply than these private plans do, but the private plans are still getting these capitation rates that are above and beyond what that cost actually is. When somebody tried to get the capitation rate to come down to what it costs traditional Medicare to deliver those benefits, an army of lobbyists descended upon Capitol Hill and started knocking on doors and inviting people out to cocktail parties. I couldn't, it's just going, no.
So this is basically long-term non-sustainable.
That is not for me to say. I am, under the terms of I probably already broke the rules here, but under the terms of my license, I am required to fairly represent the insurance company to my clients or my prospective clients, and I am required to fairly represent my prospective clients or clients to the insurance company. And this is saying these kinds of things because I'm a critic of this whole insane clown posse. I say these kinds of things without naming any one company, because some of them are a lot better than others. All right, we still got to talk about Part 4.
Are all
Medicare Advantage plans zero premium, or are they
No,
just
no. A lot of them are, some of them are not. And if you go to Medicare.gov, create a little account, give them your zip code, tell them, I want to see all the available Medicare Advantage plans. A whole bunch of them will show up, and usually they rank them from lowest premium to highest. And what I like to look at as a financial planner is, well, okay, in a worst case scenario, under this plan, how much money is going to come out of my client's household to meet a bad health event? And I like to see that maximum out of pocket cap, which is one of the reasons you leave traditional Medicare.
Excuse me, I have to go now.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. I like to see, money sitting in an interest-bearing account at the bank without any investment risk that's gonna cover that maximum out of pocket if that happens to you. And I also am then gonna ask the client, do you have money to, if you spend all of that you set aside for that purpose, is there some more money to put there for next year? And if that's not the case, can you afford, given that you're paying zero premium for this, can you afford $35, $40 a month for a hospital indemnity plan, so that if you go in the hospital, that $4,000 maximum out of pocket will be covered by that indemnity plan? That's another whole subject though. Anyway. We went over to Bloomington for some preventive medical care, and we called a couple days in advance and told the clinic or the lab, we're with Plan X. And they said, okay, here's your appointment. We showed up, and right there at the receptionist desk is a little sign that says, we're sorry, we don't take that plan anymore. I was getting a blood test after having gotten a physical exam a year or so ago. I don't recall exactly how long ago. And I'm chatting with the staff at the clinic, and they said, oh yeah, we're not participating in that plan anymore. I'm like, say what? I'm here because you're in the plan. Sorry, we're not in the plan anymore. So what does that mean? It means, number one, don't trust whoever picks up the phone at the provider's office to know for sure whether they're in your plan or not. Call the plan itself. Technically, if your provider drops out of the plan because they just can't keep the doors open with what the plan's paying them, then they're gonna know it at the 800 number the plan provides you. They're gonna know it right then and there. Because behind the scenes, there is this pitched warfare negotiation, to put it politely, between doctors, hospitals, clinics, labs, pharmacies, pharmacists, on the one hand, and the insurance companies that are trying to round these people up and put them in the network and get them to work for whatever they're gonna pay. And I don't know if you've been paying enough attention to the headlines, but right now, pharmacists are staging a prairie fire rebellion. They're walking off the job because they can't work under these conditions. And one of the reasons they're being asked to work under dire conditions is that, the insurance companies are, setting the rates that the pharmacists earn, setting the rates that the pharmacy can afford to pay the pharmacist assistant, and on and on. And all of this stuff going on behind the scenes that you don't see is why, yes, if you know what you're getting into and you call the day before or the morning of your visit to get your prostate exam or your mammogram or whatever it is, you call as close to that appointment as you can and have someone at the plan tell you, and you write down their name and you say, can you give me a reference number for this call? That's what I mean by managing the management of your managed care. What do you get in return for that? You get all your benefits plus all these extra things that Medicare traditionally doesn't cover for zero premiums, in addition to what you're paying for Part B and in addition to what you already sucked into the Part A trust fund for your working life. And as long as, if I'm sitting across the kitchen table from someone, as long as they nod their head and say, okay, yeah, I understand that. And as long as they understand they can call me and I can assist if necessary, then I'll sell them a zero premium plan. and I'll probably walk away with $600 or something like that. Okay. So this is the best path. I was gonna read my speech from the soapbox. That's what that was. I've already said it also. It's the best path when you pay a lower premium. If you're on veterans benefits, a lot of veterans will sign up for a zero premium plan because they've got their VA benefits, and they use the Medicare Advantage plan to supplement them. They like the network of doctors. Or, we have back here the latest version of the federal government's income tables for the poverty rate. You can get extra help.
Everybody has those, I passed them out.
You pass them out. You can get a low-income subsidy to help you pay for your Part D prescription drugs if you are at or below 150% of the poverty line for your household. And that's, of course, you know, how many people are there, how many people are depending upon you, and so forth. And that's new. The low-income subsidy that you can get that can cover your Part D prescription drug premiums and reduce your copays for your prescriptions is going up in 2024 to 150% of the poverty rate. Okay, prescription drugs. The costs will vary by plan. If you're working with an agent, you should always insist that they show you all of the plans, including the ones that will work for you but that don't pay them a commission. And if they're doing right by you, they'll sign you up for that plan. So there's a growing number of prescription drug plans just don't pay commissions. And so, when would you do a separate freestanding Part D prescription drug plan? Well, you would use it when you're supplementing Medicare traditional with a supplement plan, because they don't offer prescription coverage. Or if you're just gonna sign up for Medicare, forget the supplement, forget Medicare Advantage, but I need a prescription drug plan, well, that's when you would use it. Because remember, Part A and Part B don't cover prescription drugs. Prescription plans, their own little ball of complexity. Premiums range all over the place. If you really want a really powerful one that's likely to give you benefits for the most exotic brand name drugs, then you can pay $75 a month, $100 a month just for your prescription drug plan. Generally speaking, the lower the premium, the greater is the number of drugs that aren't going to be covered. They have the drugs organized across what they call tiers. I want to say T-E-A-R-S, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying T-I-E-R-S. The lowest tiers typically are the drugs that you pay nothing for when you go to the drugstore. If you take a torvastatin for high cholesterol, that's so common that, you know, they can deliver that to you for zero premium, as long as you use it in network pharmacy. Levothyroxine is a common drug a lot of people take for thyroid. That's so common that they're probably going to put that on tier 1. It's not going to cost you anything when you go to the drugstore if you're in network. But the higher tiers for brand name drugs or newer, more exotic generic drugs, basically the more it costs the insurance company to deliver that prescription to you, the greater is going to be your share of the cost, and there'll be a copay, or sometimes co-insurance. I want to go through, take a quick look at my notes here and make sure I cover the most important things. There's step therapy. If you arrive in a Part D plan and you have a condition and you're paying this drug for that condition, the plan offers this drug over here for that condition. They don't offer the one you're on now. You can ask them to cover the one you're on now, and they have the right to require that you go through step therapy, gradually migrate from the one your doctor prescribed for you for that condition over to the one that's on the plan. They can impose limits on quantities. You have rights to appeal their decisions, you have the right to say, hey, I really think you ought to put this drug on your plan, or you can, file an appeal and say, I think you've got my drug on tier 4, it really belongs on tier 2. And especially if you've got your doctor willing to go to bat for you and put in writing that this brand name drug is what helps my client with her migraine headaches. All these others, we looked at them, we tried them, they're not working. That can be a big help to get the plan to cover what they're not covering. Okay,
Is there, you're not taking prescriptions, so you don't think you need Part D, and then a few years later, you start taking prescriptions. Oh, maybe we're talking about that right now.
yes, there is a penalty. If you don't sign up for Part D when you were first eligible, then for every month that you could have had it but didn't, you pay
It's on the screen.
yes, read the screen. If you, for example, lost creditable coverage, what is creditable coverage? That's an important term. It's coverage that would have delivered prescription drug coverage at least as good as what you would get in the standard plan defined by Medicare for all nationwide prescription drug plans. That standard plan for 2024 costs $34.70 a month. Okay, so for every month that you go without creditable coverage somewhere else, you pay 1% of $34.70, or 35 cents. So, let's say you lost creditable coverage 7 years ago, you didn't enroll in a Part D RX plan, or a Medicare Advantage plan, which covers prescriptions, and most of them do these days. Well, 7 times 12 months is 84 months times 0.035 equals $29.40 in monthly penalty premium, in addition to the $34.70 that you would pay if you signed up for a plan that exactly matched Medicare's generic Plan D for prescription drugs. So a $34.70 premium would be increased to $64.10, and you'd be paying that penalty for as long as you have a Part D. So you got a late penalty for enrolling in Part D late, you got a late penalty for enrolling in Part B late, you got a late penalty if you don't enroll in Part A. Well, these are insurance plans, and what is insurance? You pool the risk, and I don't want you, if you feel like you have no risk, to suddenly jump in down the road and suddenly you have risk, because we're all supposed to be paying into the pool to spread the risk. That's the basic logic, and that's why they impose these penalties. And it can be costly if you figure you do finally sign up 7 years ago, 7 years after you first should have, and then you live another 30 years paying that penalty. There's extra help if your annual income is less than $21,870 for singles, $29,580 for couples. Page 92 in your handbook, they spend a lot of money to send these out. I'll give you the crib sheet. Go to page 92, and in the event you or someone you know is having trouble paying for their prescription drugs or paying for their prescription drug plan, if they are at or below these income levels or these resources. What are resources? They're what we in the investment advisory or financial planning business call assets, like an IRA, an annuity, a 401k plan at work, an emergency fund piled up at the bank, whatever it is, they call them resources. And if your resources, if you're single, are $16,600 or less, or $33,240 or less, you'll get help paying the deductible on your prescription drug plan, paying your co-pays, even paying your premiums. If your above this, where is that poverty table?
People have it. That's right.
I want to see one just for reference. If your household has 2 people in it, and you're at or below 150% of the federal poverty rate, that's what it says right here, $29,580. All right, never mind. You can also qualify for low-income subsidy, which also can help cover your premium for your Part D plan and your co-pays. And I don't know if you remember, they used to call it a donut hole. Coverage under a Medicare Part D prescription drug plan proceeds through stages. So first, you pay a deductible if there is one, and they vary by plan. The more you pay in premium, presumably the lower is the deductible, though sometimes the drugs on the formula, I should back up and say, there's something called a formulary. That is the list of the drugs that are covered. And if the formulary is really rich and has all the more expensive drugs in it, well, you're gonna likely pay a higher premium for that, and it might even come with a high deductible. Anyway, once your costs have reached $5,030, and these are the numbers for next year, then from there to $8,000, you pay 25% of the cost for generics, 25% for brand names, but 95% counts towards your out-of-pocket, meaning you will reach your out-of-pocket limit on your prescription drug spending at a rate far faster than paying 25% of the cost. You get credit above and beyond what you pay during the donut hole. And that's what this gap is between $5,030 in expenses and $8,000 in expenses. Now, there's a lot of things that go in to contribute to that. If the pharmaceutical company is offering a discount, that counts towards this $8,000. Your premium counts towards $8,000. Your copay counts towards the $8,000. So there's a lot that's going on. It's called an out-of-pocket expense, but a lot of it, in fact, didn't come out of your pocket. So just remember, the drugs are listed on a tier from least expensive to most expensive. Just remember that if you're going to shop for a Medicare Advantage plan that includes the Part D plans, or if you're going to shop for a Part D plan by itself to supplement original Medicare, or to supplement original Medicare plus a Medicare supplement, have your meds in front of you and make sure the formulary includes them. And sometimes you won't be able to find a plan that covers your particular prescriptions that you're taking. Though there's a lot of plans available out there. And again, the first place to start is Medicare.gov. If you've got access to the internet, create an account for yourself at Medicare.gov, enter all of your medications, enter the doctors you want to use, enter the pharmacy, the drugstore that you want to use, and tell it, okay, show me all of the Part D plans, because you don't want to do Advantage. Or if you want to do Advantage, show me all the Medicare Advantage plans that include my prescription drug. What you'll find is a lot of plans, and there are very few agents that represent all of them. There really aren't, because if you represent any one of them, first of all, you've got to go through AHIP, America's Health Insurance Plan certification every year. Then you've got to go to that company and go through their certification process. It takes a lot of time. And so I managed to get 4 of them done this year. But there's like, if each of the 4 that I represent has, say, 8 plans, that's what's 4 times 8, 32. And there's 56 plans available to you. Well, it would be in your interest to know what the plans from 32 to 56 are offering.
So, I have a question, because we joined the health marketplace, and you're talking about things being like a clown car show with advantage plans and stuff. Well, we find it to be extended into the government and the healthcare plan, the healthcare marketplace. Because we went through the whole thing and signed up, and they give you a list of, networks that you can join, and in our area. And you go down the list, and some of these places are like, we never heard of this person, and you're getting old phone numbers, and I mean, it's not up to date at all. Is this similar to that when you start shopping for plans?
Well,
That a lot of them will be out of date or inaccurate information?
No, I think Medicare is better than that, and every plan available in the 47448 zip code is listed in the back of this book.
Oh, okay.
And, so yeah, it's been 3 years since, I had dealt with the healthcare.gov below age 65 marketplace. I had an opportunity to, earn a large commission on a product I sold, and the commission paid in December. And that commission knocked me completely out of eligibility for that year, for that monthly paid in advance tax credit. So when I got to do my taxes 3 months later, I realized that I had to refund the government the entire tax credit times 12 for each month of that year. And I said, well, that's that. I'm turning 65 in December. I'm just gonna have to make it to December without any coverage. And then I had a transient ischemic attack. You've heard of those? They're called mini strokes. And all I had in force when that happened was the hospital indemnity claim. So of the astounding bill that I was charged for being admitted for 1 whole day, and an MRI, and a couple of other tests, my hospital indemnity plan covered $8,000. And now I'm making payments on the rest. So, maybe I should have signed up for another Obamacare plan to get me through to Medicare eligibility, but I was just said, oh, enough of this. It killed us. But I guess it's, you know, I should have realized, I should have taken my nice commission on that nice commissionable product that I sold and sent 50% of it to the government as soon as I got it, and then maybe would have been a different story. So it's easy to get stung. And insurance agents, you know, they're not in it for their health, they gotta get paid. But more and more the regulators are forcing anyone that holds himself out as a financial advisor of any kind to adopt a fiduciary standard, which means they put your interests first, and if they're gonna get paid X number of dollars over here to recommend, to sell you this solution to your problem, but you can pay them half that amount over here for this solution, which will also do the job. They need to present that to you and make sure you understand why they're recommending the one that's gonna pay them twice as much. That's the fiduciary standard. They gotta put your interests first, and they have to disclose what's their incentive, what's the conflict of interest. When you think about conflict of interest, you know, well, if a financial advisor's gotta make a living, there's a conflict of interest, because, you know, they're gonna get paid a fee or a commission, and some of the commissions are more generous than others. And we have that problem with the Medicare Advantage versus original Medicare. About the only thing they can do for you with original Medicare is sign you up for a supplement, and that doesn't pay as much as the Advantage plans pay. And then they really should make sure that you have some prescription drug coverage, so they should offer you a Part D plan, and some of those don't pay commission at all. So we've got this incentive structure coming down on us from the regulators, which strangely seems to benefit the solution that is profitable to the insurance
You tapped
industry.
into near the edge, honey.
I'm sorry, what?
Said you tapped into near the regulatory edge there.
Yes, I am. Well, I'm a troublemaker from way back, I'm sorry. Thank you very much for coming. I will stay as long as we need to answer any questions. We've got about a half hour before the library closes, so. Fire away.
I got,
Thank you.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say, in your folder is this card. I said I wasn't gonna mention any of the companies I represent. Well, this particular company I do represent is one of the four, and they printed these cards up for me for free, so that's why it's in there. I am not allowed to require that you give me any contact information whatsoever. If you wanna meet with me individually, you've gotta take the initiative. You can do that by filling this out and dropping it in the basket on the way out, or sticking it in the envelope and mailing it in. I would do that if you go to Medicare.gov and you're still at a loss and you still want some help, then send this back to me. If I get this, I will call you right away or email you right away, and I have to collect what's called a scope of appointment form. Remember I said the regulations are really tight? What we're doing then is we're going, or transitioning from an educational experience to a sales solicitation. And so now there's a whole new set of rules. You've got to sign a scope of appointment form that defines the scope of the appointment we're about to have. I want him to tell me about Part D. I want him to check that box, fine. I want him to tell me about Advantage, check that box. I want him to tell me about Medicare, check that box. And I have to have that 48 hours before we meet. Which is fine, we can do that, but the annual enrollment period ends on December 7th. What?
Does Gary have a question for you?
I'm sorry, Gary, do you have a question?
Uh, I have Medicare A and B, I still work at Cummins, and I have Cummins insurance.
Okay.
I'll just use the date hypothetical. If I retire March 30th, the last of March, will a supplement company start April 1st? Will they just cover me, or how do I make sure I've got coverage when the
Yeah.
Cummins stops?
With no gap.
No gap.
Yeah, that's, they should offer you coverage the first of the month following the receipt of your application.
So I'll have to pick a company and then have an application and.
Right, make sure the application is done, and you can do this over the phone with them, you can do it through me, but once they get your application, or you can do it online with the company, and you'll get an email confirming they have received your application, and unless they have an excuse to take you through medical underwriting, your effective date should be the first of the following month.
Now, would they have medical or physicals or anything like that?
Not if you've been postponing enrolling in Part B because you're on the Cummins Health Plan.
I've got B with Cummins at the same time.
Oh, you've got them at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So,
You're applying as soon as you leave
Drop Cummins.
Cummins, and so that gets you that 6-month guaranteed issue period.
Okay, so then I have time to find a company to
Yeah.
take over where Cummins stopped.
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure how that part worked.
Yeah, when you go to Medicare.gov, as you go through the steps, you're gonna get to a point where they're gonna say, okay, what do you want us to show you? Do you want us to show you Medicare Part, do you want us to show you all of the prescription drug plans? Do you want us to show you all the Medicare supplement plans, or do you want us to show you all the Medicare Advantage plans? And it's pretty clear, laid out there how to do that, and I'm happy to assist you with that.
So,
Yeah.
is the supplement better than the Advantage, or it depends on the circumstances?
It depends on your circumstances. If you can afford to pay for the supplement, then you're still gonna need to pay for prescription drug coverage. And if you need some help with dental and vision, you're gonna need to buy an additional plan for that, or just pay as you go. A lot of this is gonna depend upon your overall financial circumstances. You know, why would you pay premiums to an insurance company if you can easily afford this care without their help? Then, you know, why send money off to an insurance company? And that's kind of a financial planning question, which I would be happy to review with you, but each one of you has a different set of circumstances. And, yeah, if you need help with a vision benefit, if you know from your family health history, you're probably gonna have cataracts down the road or something, you probably wanna have that covered somehow.
So that the Advantage would have all that in there together. I wasn't sure which.
Advantage is
cost.
gonna help you, get an eye exam every year and give you discounts, or in some case, free frames and lenses and things. Now, getting into complex eye surgery and stuff like cataract surgery or LASIK or stuff, that's a medical question. We'd need to,
I'll
check
let
it.
someone else maybe have a question.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm undecided what to do.
Yeah. It's endlessly complex and I think,
Dr. Wu knows.
yeah, Dr. Wu knows. I looked up Dr. Wu on Google and it turns out that, my friends Donald Fagen and Walter Becker might have been writing about heroin. So I thought, well, never mind.
Another question, so when you go onto Medicare.gov and you say, here's what I'm looking for, you're basically gathering information, you're not enrolling in anything, correct?
That is
You're
correct,
putting
but
all
you-
your information and,
But you can enroll there.
okay.
You can say, okay, yeah, this plan's network has my doctor in it. I called them. They confirmed that Medicare's got it right. Yes, my doctor is in the network. This plan's drug formulary includes all of my drugs. It includes the hospital I want to use if I gotta go to the hospital. Click and
So
roll.
when you go on that Medicare.gov, they don't actually distinguish between supplement or
Yes.
advance, they do?
Yes, oh yes, they do.
So do you have to say, I wanna see all the advantage plans, or I wanna see all the supplement plans, or they just kinda,
No,
Pile it all together.
they won't pile them together. They'll show you either all the Advantage plans or all the supplement plans.
but can you ask for both then?
Yes, you kind of have to back up and say, okay, this time let's look at the supplements and not the Advantage plan.
Cause I'm still not seeing the differences between, other than you pay a premium for a supplement and you don't for the advantage.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
actually
seems
illegal
like
to have,
you would pay something for the advantage plans.
pardon?
It seems like you would be paying something for the advantage plans.
Well, that's what I was complaining about. The fact is you are, the $174.90, I think it was, that's coming out of your Social Security check,
Mhm.
or that you're paying out of pocket, well, either way, it's coming out of your pocket, that's going to the Medicare Advantage plan. In addition, an amount equivalent to what it costs to deliver Part A benefits to everyone in the 47448 area, or whatever your geographic area is under Medicare, that's also going to the Medicare Advantage plan. Some Medicare Advantage plans will ask for you to pay premium in addition to that. And,
Also, isn't one of the differences that some of the Medicare Advantage plans have limitations of who you can see?
yeah, the trade-off for that zero premium, or for a modest premium in addition to what you're already paying, is they want you to use a network.
Mhm.
And there's two kinds. There's health maintenance organizations, HMOs. They got a real bad rap back when they first came on the scene, and
Yeah.
they've improved. But HMOs are pretty tight about who you get your health care from, what hospitals, what doctors, what specialists, and so forth. And they have rules about, you just up and calling a specialist, I wanna get a neurological exam. Typically, you have to name a primary care physician, you go to them and talk to them about why you think you need a neurological exam, and then they refer you to someone who's in the network. If you wanna go out of network, if your doctor wants to send you out of network, or if they have to send you out of network because they don't have enough people in your area to meet that service that they're required to deliver, why then, for that specific situation, they'll give you authorization to go out of network. Now, preferred provider organizations is another kind of network. Your benefits under the plan are this many dollars, your cost, if you use the in-network specialist, But if you go out of network, why, your share of the cost is gonna go up. You're gonna get some of it covered by the plan, but you're gonna pay a lot more. So they want you to stay in the network. Well, why would they want you to stay in the network? Well, gee, follow the money. They're probably paying less to the network providers. And so they're taking it out of somebody's hide somewhere. So there's a good and the bad about it. The problem that I see is it's the hierarchy, starting at the top with the people with obscene amounts of money piled up, all the way down to people who are on Medicaid and couldn't pay for a doctor if they wanted to. The lower you are in that pecking order, the more attractive does the Part A, does the Advantage plan become. Because at least you get access to health care. Presumably, it's of a certain reasonable quality of health care, and you can get dental, vision, and hearing in the mix, and even some help buying healthy food at the grocery store for some of these plans. And so, it's like, I don't wanna see traditional public government-operated Medicare go away, but I think people who can't afford a Medicare supplement or can't afford to go to the dentist should be allowed to go to the dentist. So, it's a real mixed bag. And so, yeah, I don't approach this the way a lot of my colleagues in the business do. There's a group of agents who are like up above me who are supposed to herd cats. Like Anthem has broker management or broker relations managers who I'm supposed to be able to call with questions, and they're supposed to keep an eye on all of the people down here actually meeting folks and selling them these plans. I called the one from Humana and I said, boy, I got set up for four companies this year, the usual suspect: Aetna, Anthem, Humana, and United Healthcare. And I said, man, this is an insane clown posse. And that's what I was going to advertise my talk as, taming the insane clown posse. But my 30-year-old daughter, who lives in Milan, Italy, said, oh, Dad, you can't use that. That's the name of a rap group from the 1990s. You would be engaging in cultural appropriation. And I said, okay, fine, insane clown. So I don't know if anyone would have related to it any better than Dr. Wu, but
I wouldn't have.
But when I told this broker relations manager, that I was thinking of calling my educational session, the insane clown posse, she just laughed and laughed. They know, and the complexity, again, it comes from having to regulate all these businesses and having to corral all these cats and get them to play by the same rules, and then all these agents. There's a reason why you have to go through all this certification through America's health insurance plans, and then when you're done with that, you've got to go apply to the company you want to represent, go through all of theirs. And if you really want to be an independent advisor, well, you best have at least two of these companies and maybe more. But anyway, I'd be delighted to be of service to any of you in any way, and if we did meet and discuss this, my only requirement is that when I leave, I've left something of value on the table for you. Whether we do business or not, you're better off for having worked with me. That's my basic rule.
Well, that happened today, so you're doing good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Here. I guess I just realized I stepped off screen. I turn off my camera.